I'm not starting with the peace greeting this time, but there are three things I want to say. I'm going to offer a partial defense of Kevin Samuels, outright defense of Edward Anderson, and a defense of the young man that Kevin Samuels asked the question about his eggplant. Now, a lot of people are jumping on and saying, yeah, man, that dude gay. You know what? Talking about Kevin Samuel. I get that he wears suits that are tighter than what most of our age group wears. He lives in Atlanta. And he has a classy demeanor that's oftentimes associated with not liking women. What I'm going to say is this. These things could be taken as evidence that he's into men. I get it. But there's also evidence that he's not. Now, some of you say, what are you talking about? Well, see, we make surface snap judgments of each other, and that's not okay. We don't look at BGS and say, man, nigga, you gay. But he did say to somebody he would do them in a rectum. He said it in anger, and that's exactly how we took it, and we did not jump to the worst possible conclusion that he's in the booty. I mean, man booty. Now, if we're going to do that for him, then why do we not do this for Mr. Samuels when, though he asked the wrong and inappropriate question, he didn't do it in the context of trying to get some? Showing that he, you know, or any, what I'm saying is that the context was even more innocent, but we didn't give him the benefit of the doubt. We should say to him, bro, that's bad, man. Sick. But that's the same thing to say to BGS, just to be fair. Now, we don't hate him, but just to be fair, that's the same thing we would have to say to him. Damn, bro. Nasty as hell, man. Nigga, what? That's how you roll? See, we didn't do that. And I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say the same thing here. We should have said to him, bro, nasty as hell, man. But outright saying, no, yeah, that nigga gay, bro. That's not why. People are using other things, but they're ignoring the evidence that he's not. Now look at the evidence that he's not. He's been married. He's only been in 2 women as far as anybody can see. And the other thing is that he lives in Atlanta, which could be taken as evidence that he is on one hand, but also evidence that he's not. Let me tell you why. I lived in Atlanta. If you become famous and you're on the down low, somebody in that community is going to expose you and they're going to say, I effed him or he effed me. They're going to put you out. You don't get to be famous and on the down low in Atlanta. Now, you could be on the DL or you could be famous, but you can't be both. They're not allowing that to happen. So the thing is, there's always rumors that every single man in Atlanta is. I mean, sisters themselves act like that. Every single man in Atlanta's got some sugar in his tank. They're always like that. They said that about me. I knew a lady one time said that about my family friend, and for a while my roommate, and she used to screw the dude. She didn't really believe that. The problem she had was that when she started acting like a child, he ditched her. And he was like, man, you fine as hell, especially after you paid for this nice pair of titties you got. But you act like a damn kid. And not only that, but she was a single mom and he wasn't trying to raise somebody else's baby. And he likes kids, but he's like, you don't bring me someone else's kid and then act like a kid yourself. That ain't the way that works. And one of the things he said was, if I'm going to go through these headaches, I'm going to go through these headaches for a woman that ain't got nobody else's kids. These women are bringing other men's kids, and I'm supposed to go through all this headache. Man, shuck that fit. And that's exactly what he did. And that's why she got upset. She didn't tell me that he used to tap that and cream pie her cervix. Oh, and he did because she was the one that locked the legs, locked him into place so that he couldn't pull out. She did that. He had no reason to lie about this kind of thing. So I want to bring this to light as well. That being said, something else that happened too was that in Atlanta was that women began to say this a long time ago. I mean, from the time that I was there, women started saying this about a lot of different guys. And it sucked, but they just started saying this about a lot of different guys. Like, hey, look, you're staying by yourself. You came to this city without a girlfriend or a wife. You're suspect. And it was messed up because these same women that would say that would make friends with wives that moved there with their husbands and then try to convince these wives to develop an attitude that would push their husbands away. They couldn't win for losing. I'm just going to call it what the F it was. They couldn't win for losing. So anyway, the way that a lot of people are just jumping on this, saying that Kevin gay, I'm like, no, you know what? Just go ahead and be honest, man. Let's just go ahead and be honest. You could take certain things as evidence that he is, but that would also serve as evidence that he's not. And play the whole tape to get the whole context instead of just jumping to the worst possible conclusion, because on the surface, when you look at him, it's believable. Do that, be fair. The other thing I also wanted to say is, some of y'all niggas starting to jump on there with Anderson about that stuff too. Y'all need to fuck the shuck up. He didn't do anything to deserve that. There's less reason to say this about him than there is to say this about anybody else. The pitch of his voice after he's explained the job in which that training became permanent, and his vocabulary is not a reason to sit up and say that he's into booty and ding-a-ling. There's no reason to say that. It's just something people like saying because, unfortunately, a lot of black folk like to use this accusation and use that to discredit people. I'm also now going to speak on behalf of that 20-year-old that made that call that time. And I want to say to that 20-year-old, listen, young man, number one, that was several months ago. And since then, from what I've heard, that call was several months ago. Since then, Mr. Samuels has begun to hold the mirror up to sisters and tell them what they need to hear. And I'm fully behind him in that. No, I did not support him when he was holding up the mirror up to young men, because men simply need to be told at a young age what they've not been told, what's been kept from them. Sisters need to be told about how they've deluded themselves. Those are two different things. In both cases, the delusion and the deception came from sisters. They deluded themselves, they deluded men. Stephen Clinkscales has pointed this out. He talked about this 2 days ago on the Roommates podcast. His own mom and aunt, or was it his mom and grandmom? It was his mom and some other woman in the family told him, be this good kind of guy and one day you gonna be blessed. Bullshit. And I'm glad he figured it out. He loves his mom, but he ain't gonna take that deception off of her. Great. But unfortunately, he had to tell us that she was going to deceive him. Whether she meant to or not, she was going to deceive him. Jay Cash has talked about this. Apparently his mom just ain't saying anything one way or another, but his sister is trying to tell him stuff that it's to women's advantage to believe, but not to his advantage to believe. Oh, it ain't got nothing to do with how you look. It's how you are. I mean, maybe, but I mean, if that's the case, shit. How come other guys are able to get away with being these ways? So, I want to say to you, young man, no. Mr. Sams, I mean, if I was him, I would not have asked you that question. What I would have said is, okay, if you got an above average one, you can use that to your advantage. But you got to let them know you got it, so you can thirst trap until you can tie yourself over. Or I, as a Muslim, would have said, I would have said, okay, if you got it, then you can use that when you get married to hook them. But, you know, you do try to be a responsible husband. Or I would have said, use that to increase your options with non-black women in other countries. And if you don't have one, you can do X, Y, and Z. But I would not have set up and said, what do you have? Explain it. The other thing, too, that I would not have done, had I been in his shoes, I wouldn't have done this. Well, frankly, I mean, I wouldn't have asked you anyway, really, to be honest. But had I been in his shoes, I would not have assumed that you were making this stuff up either. The reason I say that is because I already know what you're going through in your age group, what you gentlemen are facing in your age group. You're not making that up. This thing about negative energy, that's not a good explanation. It's too vague. I'm sick of hearing that stuff. But I can say that generally speaking, guys your age, y'all ain't lying. Because when I came up, when I was 20, and even older than that, I saw stuff like this where you see a neutral way that they might treat men. And then you see that they're not treating you neutrally. I saw that myself. I saw them sometimes do that with me, but not all the time. I saw them do this with a colleague of mine all the damn time. Was he awkward? Was he goofy? Yes. But was he creepy? No. He never harassed the women at work. Never. He didn't do that. Now, when they would say stuff like, oh, you nervous and, you know, you're a turn off and stuff like that, he'd say, please. You know, women out there like me. They love this. And he would stroke his head and he said he loved the hair, stuff like that. He wasn't telling the truth. But the point I'm making is that he only even responded like that when they would get on him. But he never harassed a woman at work. Never did that. Never disrespected them. When he would talk to them first, he would talk to them about work and he would talk politely. They still got on his case. Disrespected him. Even a boss did, a lady boss we had. Told him he was inferior to a strong woman. And I just straight said at one point, you know, man, I wouldn't act like you do. But I'm not going to sit up here and justify these women acting towards you the way they do either. If you ain't they type, what they should do is just roll their eyes if you say something that's out of pocket and just keep a distance. And at least be polite to you and professional when you're talking about work. And by the same token, if you're the one that's out of place and acting like this, then they got every right to tell you, hey, we ain't here for that. And they could also tell you, if you want advice from them, they should have the decency to tell you, honestly, this is what we want in men. And this is what you're doing. You can choose to do these things we want in men or not. But they ain't doing this for you, bro. But that's a different story. What I'm saying is that one thing I would have told Kevin Samuels, and I think he since figured this out anyway. I would have told him at that time is, bro, these young guys are not lying. They're really getting a bad deal and they're being lied to. They're being confused intentionally. They're being everything except told the truth. And yes, normal men are being treated like they're an irritant, like they're repulsive, and they're just normal in the middle. Because social media has allowed these women to get validation too damn much and too easily. And too many dumbass simps out there giving it to them. That's why Mia Khalifa feels it is profitable to go into what? Back to to being a thought on OnlyFans while she's married. I'm just going to call it what it is, man. I don't hate her, but, well, actually, I do kind of hate her for something else, but, you know, here she is, trying to tell guys to forget that she used to do that. No, bitch, that ain't how it works. And then trying to go back to it. And these are the same ones that they're used to this validation from men. And they don't learn anything else in their lives. And so they feel better than normal men because they all think that they're attractive. And I'm going to tell y'all straight, man. There are countries to which you could fly. And you could see women with bodies more banging in her even when they're older, and you could marry them and screw them. These places do exist. And here she is, here she is with her normal looking self, thinking she's above men because, because she's the object of their lust. And this, while it gives her a sense of insecurity, it still makes her arrogant when it comes to men. You are dealing with this. It's worse now for you than it was in my age. And what I do want to say to you, young man, is unfortunately a lot of us elders did not listen. And you don't deserve that. They didn't listen. A lot of guys my age aren't listening when you guys talk, because unfortunately in the nigger community, we got a lot of old fools. And that ain't your fault, man. So they don't listen. And they don't know what's really going on, how bad it's gotten lately. And only a few of us know. And that's not something you should have to deal with. But I do think that Kevin since then has figured out a lot, because now he's holding up the mirror to the ladies and telling them, look, you want this kind of guy, but this is what you bringing. He's bringing them down to earth. Thank God for it. I hope that what I've said helps and is a benefit now, and I hope that one day it's not even necessary anymore. Thanks for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out. And black heterosexual non-select male power, again, just because they don't like it.